cat playing with a mouse or just playing with the other team so they can close out a 7-game series on their home floor. Well, we saw that last night with the Celtics finally closing out the NBA Finals. And we've got past, present, and future to talk about in baseball. I'm your host, Ed Smith, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. Hello, everybody. This is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. I'm your host, Ed Smith, this evening. And with me, I have David Street.
What's up, y'all?
Matthew's going to be out with his newly cemented family, so we wish him a congratulations, and the show must go on. I want to dive right in, David. What did you take away from the Celtics closing out the Mavericks in Game 5?
The best team to start the season, Ed, was the best team to end the season. I think aside from the fact that the Celtics were obviously the more talented team, I think what really propelled the Celtics to this championship was learning on past painful playoff experiences. All the times that they came up short in the Jason Tatum era, Brad Stevens era, if you will. All the times within about the past decade that they came up short, it all finally came down to what happened last night. And there just comes a point when the learning lessons stop, and there comes a point when you take everything that you have learned and it all just comes down to a championship. And that's exactly what happened with the Celtics. The Mavericks, kudos to them for making it to the finals. And my apologies if I'm jumping the gun here. But while they were arguably the hottest team going into the finals, I think you and I both know that there's a clear difference between the hottest team and the best team. And the thing with hot teams is that eventually their steam runs out. And they never had a prayer of a chance against the Boston Celtics. So kudos to Boston for winning title number 18.
Yeah, and it became very apparent from the jump of this series that Boston was so much better than what the Mavericks were. There was so much energy spent by the Mavericks getting over the T-Wolves that that flame, like you said, had just burned out on them, and they were pretty much held in check. Although there was one player that, in my mind, held himself in check because he couldn't get out of his own mind, and that was Kyrie. Kyrie somehow has this weird mental block with TD Garden where he cannot show up. And in a couple of occasions since he left there as a player, he has not shown up even when he's healthy. He's had 3 do not plays uh, when his team is playing in the Garden as a healthy scratch. And that's something where in your mind, you're like, I don't think I can do this. And it just carried over into this series. So to me, that's part of it. The Mavericks took such a step back, not having Kyrie match Luka's energy, match his production while they're in Boston, to where the rest of the Dallas team, 3 through 8, absolutely had no shot matching up with the Celtics 3 through 8.
Yeah.
Porzingis in 1, 2, and he only played while they were in Boston. And what do you know? Those were games that the Celtics absolutely dominated this series. So getting a healthy Porzingis on the floor was paramount to showing how much more dominant they were. But I don't want to take anything away from us knowing that the Celtics were the better team to begin with, being that this is a team that had more 20-point wins than anybody in NBA history. This was a historically great team, and it was a crowning of the best team in basketball this year by having the Celtics beat the Mavericks last night.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time since 2017 that the team with the best regular season record won the NBA title. So it's been almost 10 years just to show how hard it is now in the NBA to win a title with the best record. I'm not sure if history will look at the Boston Celtics as an all-time great team. I mean, I understand they certainly have the numbers, but I think what ultimately hurts them, and it's no fault of their own, but ultimately, what hurts them is that this was one of the one of the more easy runs to a championship that we've seen in quite some time. Again, that's not their fault at all. They took care of business, and they certainly have the historical numbers to back them up. But I do think that the level of difficulty in their path to the finals will ultimately will prevent them from being in the all-time greatest talks, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was a team that, when faced with the their path to through the playoffs, it was kind of like a dominant team in college football. Sorry for the jump here, but a dominant team in college football. Let's say your Texas or your Georgias being put in the Sun Belt Conference or a lesser Power Four conference, and being told that they have to go through this path to get to the playoff versus somebody that has to go through the SEC. That's a totally different ball of wax on that. And they just have to play the team that's in front of them. And the Celtics definitely did that to their potential, really. And the fact that they were there last year, went out, got more pieces this year, made some hard decisions. Brad Stevens had to make some decisions at the front office level,
Hmm.
and did a fantastic job of assembling the pieces that were missing while not giving up too much of what they did already. So kudos to them for roster building on a different level compared to a lot of the other teams that we saw going into this year. But David, let me ask you, is are the Celtics going to be in a position over the next few years to survive and not have everybody try and jump ship to create their own super team or make their mark? Are these guys in a position to where they will continue to build within themselves and not break off like we've seen so many teams in the past, let's say 15 years try and do so?
Yeah, I think they're certainly in a position to to continue to do what they do. I mean, I think it's very obvious that all the guys love each other, and I know this is very cliche to say, but there truly was no I in this team. I mean, Jalen Brown won Finals MVP, averaging quote unquote only 20 points per game. I can't remember the last time a starter won Finals MVP, averaging just 20 points per game, and that to me just shows how much of a team the Boston Celtics truly were when they didn't really have a true go to guy at all. I mean, I know before I talked about Jason Tatum. You know, I felt like he wasn't playing like a true number one guy. But I think part of the reason why I said that is because I've just been so accustomed. I think both of us have been so accustomed to seeing NBA champions where one guy was the clear cut go to guy, the clear cut number one guy. I mean, last year we obviously saw that with the Nuggets and Jokic being the clear cut go to guy. You know, the Warriors, the last Warriors title, where Steph Curry was the clear cut go to guy. And then, of course, you know, before that, when they had KD was the clear go to guy. There was no clear go to guy with the Celtics And I think Brad Stevens, I mean, not just Brad Stevens, Joe Mazzulla, Wick, don't remember his last name, but we'll just call him Wick. I think certainly they have created a culture in Boston where people will want to be a part of that winning feeling.
Yeah, and kudos to Mizzoulo. He's the youngest coach to win an NBA Finals at age 35, which is quite the accomplishment. And considering he was kind of thrust in this position after being an assistant coach over before finally taking over the Celtics, I, was it this year that he took over, or was it last year? I
It was
want to
last
say
year.
it
It
was
was
last
last
year.
year. Yeah.
So they had a head coach in place. Everything was going fine, and they decided to part ways. And Missoula took over. There was a lot of buzz around Boston about him not being mature enough, old enough, experienced enough to take a team all the way. Well, I think he put all those doubters to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, flipping on the other side for the Mavericks, what do they need to do? Do they need to add defense? Do they need to add complementary scoring? Because when you look at Tatum and Brown, Porzingis is more complementary than the main guy. Drew Holiday is more complementary than the main guy. Do the Mavericks need to go the complementary route? Do they need to go more defense? And could they even come back to this level considering the depth of the Western Conference?
I think for the Mavericks, I think they need to go more the complementary route. In my opinion, uh, I have this belief about defense that ultimately that defense gets developed more so than acquired and all that. I think defense is something that you have to develop as a team, and I think that's something that they need to focus on. But also, as I said before, the Mavericks were the hottest team going into the finals, but being the hottest team doesn't mean you're the best team. And I think people have a tendency to think that just because a team made it to the finals while they were on a hot run, that I don't want to say that they don't have to do anything, but basically they're set for the next year. When that's not the case at all. I mean, this is a different sport that I'm about to mention, but the same point applies. Uh, when Ole Miss won the College World Series in 2022. That was a team that suffered through inconsistency all throughout the regular season, and I believe they were the last team in. But when they were let in, they were the hottest team, and they won Omaha. But the next year, they had a losing record, and they had a losing record again this year. So that was a clear cut case of a team that was just clearly riding lightning in a bottle. And just as an example, that just because you go on a hot run, that doesn't guarantee that good things are going to happen the next year and beyond. And I think more likely than not, we're probably going to see that with the Mavericks. I'm not saying that the Mavericks are going to suck or have a losing season. I think as long as they have Luka Doncic, they will always have they will always be competitive. They will always have a winning record. But I think this is a clear case of a team that just simply went on a hot run, and they can't just depend on that.
So let me ask you this, David. To me, there are teams that are built for winning games, and then there's teams that are built for winning championships. To me, when I look at the Mavericks, they are a team built for winning games in the regular season and not really built for championship basketball. And that is something that I see in owners that are more about getting people in the stands. They're more about the promotions. They're more about gaining the market share. They are more business savvy type owners, which we know Mark Cuban is, just like Jerry Jones, still from Dallas too. Go figure. Uh, and they want to win games to get their stadiums filled as many times as possible, but they are not. able to put themselves in a position to build a championship team versus a regular season team. Are you seeing that with these Mavericks?
I understand what you're saying, and given what I just said, I think in fairness, we do have to remember that the Dallas Mavericks not only did they just come off a finals appearance, but they went to the Western Conference Finals 2 of 3 years. So I think the potential is clearly there, which is part of the reason why I said I think they need to go more the complementary route. I mean, you have your foundation and Luca, and maybe Kyrie, even though Kyrie kind of crapped the bed in the finals, but the foundation is clearly there, and they have made deep runs to the playoffs, but they just have not been able to get over the hump yet.
Okay. Okay. Now we've talked about where the Mavericks go from here. Let's talk about for a second where the Celtics go from here. With this championship under their belt, do you see them winning with this core group of players one or two more championships?
I can definitely see that, but I don't see them. I don't see them repeating. If that's what you were going with, because this is I think the sixth. I think the sixth straight year that we had a different champion. I mean, the last team to repeat as NBA champions was the Golden State Warriors in
With
2000.
the cheat code with the
Yes,
cheat code
exactly.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what the years were, but I know they were somewhere in the 2010s, but they were the last team to repeat. But I think the NBA has now been set up to the point where it's not impossible to repeat, but it's definitely a lot harder nowadays. So while I definitely can see the Boston Celtics winning another title, maybe a couple more titles down the road with this, with this core, I don't think they're going to repeat as champs next year.
Okay. So I asked that question to bring up this. Considering the way that the sports landscape is, especially in the NBA, do you do you think that the term dynasty can be thrown around? But first, let me give you what the definition uh, of a sports dynasty says. A sports dynasty is a team or individual that dominates their sport or league for a prolonged period of time. Some say a dynasty is a team that wins multiple championships in a short period of time and has a lasting effect on the game. Now, that sounds very nice to say, but there's got to be some parameters to that. David, what would your parameters be on a dynasty?
So I think to be a dynasty, I've always believed that at the minimum, you have to either win 3 championships in a row or 3 championships in 4 years. When the Chicago Bulls won 3 straight in the 90s, that alone was enough to make them a dynasty. The fact that they three-peated again in the late 90s was just gravy. I talk about the Warriors in the 2010s. They won 3 championships in 4 years. Okay, that was a dynasty. And I think you can kind of get where I'm getting at here. Whereas I think part of what needs to go into a dynasty is that there has to be a repeat in there. It's why I don't consider the San Francisco Giants of the 2010s to be a dynasty, because not only did they not repeat, but in those odd numbered years, they were below average. They were below average teams. I mean, that was such an interesting team, because even if it was an even year, they would win the World Series. But if it was an odd year, not only would they not make the playoffs, but they wouldn't even be that good, right? Um, Now, I do I do understand with the way that sports are set up today, that it is, again, not impossible to repeat, but it is a lot harder to repeat. There's some that consider the 2010s Chicago Blackhawks to be a dynasty when they won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, and you take into consideration the salary cap restrictions, and all that. Personally, I don't consider those Blackhawks seems to be a dynasty, but I certainly understand the argument for why they should be considered a dynasty. Certainly a modern day dynasty. And then you look at the Chiefs. They repeated, but I don't consider them a dynasty yet. Now, if the Chiefs win this upcoming season, if they win a third Super Bowl title in a row, yeah, absolutely they are a dynasty. So yeah, Ed, as I said, I know people like to twist it around, especially because it's a lot harder to achieve a dynasty today than it was way back when. But I think ultimately, as I said, at the minimum, if you want to be a dynasty, you either need to win 3 championships in a row or 3 championships in 4 years.
Didn't the Chiefs win 3 championships in 4 years?
It was three
Playing
and
the
five.
Buccaneers, the Eagles, and this past year?
It was 3 and 5, I think. So
Okay.
2020, because remember, 2021 was the year they didn't make it. The Cincinnati Bengals won the AFC that year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So to piggyback on what you're saying, my definition on a sports dynasty is there's got to be a core number of people that have to be with that franchise, and they can win 3 and 5 years. They can win over a maybe a little bit longer period of time and not necessarily win championships every year, but have that core group have such a level of success over that time period. Let's say 6, 7 years. And you did mention the Giants of the early 2000 2010s, the San Francisco Giants of the early 2010s. I'm going to mention the Spurs of the 99, 2001, 2003. They won championships there. It was a core group that put those championships together. And to me, that's a dynasty. They may not have won it every single year, but their level of success over such a wide span of time, I think, puts them in that dynastic category. It's just a difference of opinion. In the comments, tell us what your thoughts are as far as what a dynasty entails, and we can have that discussion. But with this Celtics group, you're saying that there's the possibility of them getting into that category of 1 to 2 more to create that dynastic feel for the Celtics right now.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is impossible. I think they certainly have the potential to achieve that, but as of right now, I just don't see that happening.
Okay, okay. Now there is one specific Celtic I know you wanted to talk about. Do you want to go ahead and give us your thoughts on one Mr. Horford?
Yes. Mr. Al Horford, what a career he's had. I know he's not retired yet, but I think he is going to retire. The guy is almost 40 years old, and you just feel like he's going to want to retire on top. But the thing with Horford is that you know there was never a year where he was the best player, but he was someone that you could always depend on. I mean, Al Horford. I mean, if you go to the dictionary and you look up the definition of dependable, you're going to find a picture of Al Horford right there. He was never the best player, but he was not only the definition of dependable, but he was the definition of a key piece. He was the kind of player where your team would be worse off without him. If your team didn't have him, they'll be worse off. And Al Horford is one of the good guys in the league, and it's so amazing to see good things happen to good people. I mean, he played 186 playoff games prior to winning a title. That was the second most ever. The second most playoff games that a player went through before finally winning a title. And the fact that he did finally win a title just warms my heart, especially being a Gator. Go Gators! So yeah, man, great. Just overall, very, very, very solid career that Al Horford had. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. Probably not, but he did have a very solid career. And I don't know, Ed. If you were in his position, I mean, wouldn't you retire? You're almost 40 years old. You probably won't get another chance to win a ring
Mhm.
again. Why not retire on top?
I certainly would. It's not like playing in the NBA as long as he hasn't made him, I would guess, financially comfortable.
Hmm.
So really, the main purpose of continuing to play is to play for championships, and he's done that. So right off into the sunset, drink a mai tai. You know, say happy trails to the grind of everyday NBA life,
Yeah,
and I I I certainly I think that he should, and I wish him well, whichever decision he makes. I and we'll see what the offseason has in store for him. If the Celtics, wish to make another run, are they going to do it on, with Al Horford, or are they going to continue to put other pieces together? Because that management team has had zero issue investing in players, and I could certainly see them going out and finding another player like Horford to fill that spot and possibly get a fresher set of legs under him, just from the years of wear and tear of him being in the league.
yeah, definitely. By the way, Ed, we need to talk about this real quick. But you know that the Boston Celtics have flown to Miami for their championship celebration. I'm not.
Well, there's so many people from the Northeast that live in Miami that why not?
Well, a lot of them do live in Tampa too. But by the way, supposedly, from my understanding, this is being done purely out of spite because I guess the Celtics and I guess the Celtics and the Heat have sort of built up a rivalry with each other over the past few years, man. So I can respect the pettiness, man. But come on, celebrate with your city, all right?
Yeah, you know that city is crowded and nobody knows how to drive, and the roads don't know how to drive either.
Yeah,
So I've been there.
I've actually been to what you've been to Miami?
I've been to Boston.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I've been to Miami once. Buddy and I went there a few years ago, but we went in January, so like before all the spring breakers could come and crash the party. So we went at the perfect time. So
Well, it's not like being in Boston right now is a terrible thing. It is. It Boston's gorgeous in the summertime. I thought it was a very nice city to visit. I am not going to be from there, but that's my choice. But speaking of teams in that region of the country, the Yankees. The Yankees, they have really jumped on this train of offensive explosion with Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge finally got on the track, and it's been almost historic what he's been able to do over the past month and a half. Uh, Aaron Judge started the season at a 197 clip. He was missing everything except the 7 train to get to the stadium. And, but over the last 40 games, his average has been 387, almost double what it was over the first portion of the season. His his slash line 387, 503 on base percentage, 937, 1.439. That is a ridiculous stat line. Of players that you've seen hit this mark in past years, have you seen anybody keep this kind of pace throughout the last half of the season, David?
I mean, unless Shohei Otani kept that kind of pace, then no, I can't remember anybody keeping that pace throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, and this is a team that has been riding that offense, but
Hmm.
also had some good pitching performances. They actually lead the AL in ERA at 3.02 ERA, which is phenomenal considering that they are in a neck and neck race with the Baltimore Orioles.
And this is
And go
just
ahead.
real quick. Correct me if I am wrong, but this is with Garrett Cole injured. I'm pretty sure Garrett Cole is still on that
Yes,
staff, but he's injured, right?
yes, he's
Okay.
been out for the first couple of months.
Hmm.
And as far as favorites in the AL going into the season, the Yankees are always going to be a favorite.
Yeah.
But Baltimore, we said on this show, Baltimore has the staying power of winning this division. And I think we were unanimous in saying that they would. The Yankees are trying to throw a wrench into that. Is that I think were you expecting this kind of fight from that club, especially after seeing Garrett Cole go down at the beginning of the year?
I don't know if I would say I was expecting this kind of fight, but I'm definitely not surprised. I mean, as you said, Ed, it's the Yankees, and the Yankees can never be counted out. And hell, look, the Orioles and the Yankees are about to play each other. They might be playing each other right now. I don't know, but they are in the midst of playing each other. So they have a real good shot of either team has a real good shot at AL East supremacy. And I also want to give a shout out to the Yankees in this regard, in that not only do they have the best record in the American League, but I think their record is legit in that they've been playing a very tough schedule. According to team rankings, they have the 11th as of right now. They have the 11th toughest strength of schedule right now. So not only are they putting up wins, but they're putting up wins against hard competition.
Yeah, and just imagine when they get past the All Star break and they go through all the lesser competition that everybody else has been playing.
Yeah.
How how well are they going to do when that comes around? Just as an update, the Yankees did beat the Orioles this evening, so they're now 2.5 games up on the Orioles. And this is such a pivotal series because you've got these 3 games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You've got the 3 games that are going to be right before the All Star break, and you've got the 3 games at the end of the season between these two ball clubs, the Yankees and Orioles. And when you're talking about who wins the division, considering what we expect as far as a win total for both of these teams, you either win this division and get your home field, quite likely, for throughout the playoffs, or you go in as a wild card. And games and series like these between these two teams are going to go a long ways to determining that. And it's going to be so pivotal for these remaining 8 games between these two ball clubs to jockey for position uh, going into the playoffs, which we all expect both clubs to do. Now, I want to point out Aaron Judge did leave tonight's game with a left hand injury after being hit by a pitch. I'm still waiting to hear status on his injury. We'll get that to you just as soon as we have it. Uh, but that could hinder what we expect out of that ball club going into the next month, or it could just be a stinger. They realize that they're okay and moving on and moving up. I mean, that's just kind of how baseball rolls. If it's nothing, it's nothing. Move on, day to day, no big deal.
Mhm.
Or it's a serious injury that he's going to be on the uh, injured list for, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Um, did you have any uh, MLB uh, notes that you wanted to go over?
What, regarding the Yankees or the other teams we're gonna talk about?
Uh, if there's a stat line that you're seeing out there that you wanted to make mention of.
Uh, uh, no, not really. But I do want to go
Okay.
on and talk about the Dodgers if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So obviously, we saw that Mookie Betts is out. How long is he out for, Ed?
6 weeks with the broken hand.
Wow. And that might have been the stat line you were referring to. I don't know. But yeah, Mookie Betts is out for 6 weeks. And obviously, it sucks when you lose any player, especially a key contributing player. But I don't think this is a huge loss. I don't think this is that huge of a loss for the Dodgers. You know what? Not when they still have guys like Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith. Am I missing anybody? I might be missing one other player. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the Dodgers' depth is such that even when one guy goes down, they can still, hum along. They have one of the best offenses in the majors, and in my opinion, I think they have the best batting lineup in the majors. And listen, I know I said before that I thought the Dodgers were going to go 117-45. Well, as we speak right now, they're 45-29, which means that they would need to go 72-16 the rest of the way. And no, I did not calculate that in my head. I am not good at math like that. I calculated this on a calculator prior to recording this episode. But they would need to go 72-16 the rest of the way. Can they do it? Probably not. But I tell you what, Ed, this slate of games that they have right now, or rather this slate of series that they have right now, is certainly a good start for them. I may not have it in the right order, but the teams that they are playing, right now and beyond are the Rockies, the Giants, the White Sox, the Diamondbacks, and uh, there's one other team there. I don't remember who it is, but these are all teams who, as we speak right now, all have under 500 records. So, if the Dodgers are going to win 117 games, I don't think they are now at this point. I think it's too late. But if they are going to do it, certainly this next slate of series will certainly help them get to that point.
Yeah, being 8.5 games up on the second place Giants goes a long way to winning this division. And like you said, there's that is a easier track for them to hang on and stay on track for getting their getting their spot in the playoffs, in the postseason, and then moving on from there. That'll be long after Betts comes back. He'll just he'll just plug in like another cog in the machine, which that's a pretty damn pretty damn good cog to have to motor along in that machine going forward. One team that that David and I didn't mention before coming on tonight, and that's my Astros. Uh, a couple of notes I've seen on them has been that Justin Verlander's now going on the IL, and Jordan Alvarez taking a couple of games off here and there. This is a team that they were based around starting pitching, and now they have two of their top three starters out for the season, and their number one starter, Justin Verlander, on IL. At what point do they start talking to Trevor Bauer? Right. At what point do they start talking to some other teams to uh, talk on the trade deadline, or is this a seller's situation? Is it time to finally give up the ghost of everything that they've built up so far? So that's a question that I have going forward. David, you've seen the Astros play at this level for 7+ years now. Is it time? Is it time to start wondering what the future holds for an aging core of this club?
I think you can certainly wonder what the future holds, but I think you're jumping the gun too early if you want to sell. Personally, the way that I see it is that if you guys have end up with a losing record, or if you end up with a kind of record that's not the Houston standard, um, but just for this season, that's definitely some cause for concern, but I don't think it's cause for panic. Now, if you repeat the same kind of season the next year, then yeah, I think definitely at that point it might be time to talk about selling. I mean, you and Ed, I think you make a great point about how y'all's core is aging, which it was just a fact of life. I mean, nobody stays in their prime forever, and I think certainly we are seeing the Astros go past their prime. But I don't think there's any in my opinion, I don't think there's any need to be sellers just yet. I think for now, maybe just treat the season like it's a fluke. Now, granted, not having managers like AJ Hinch or Dusty Baker definitely kind of puts things into perspective. I will say that.
Yeah, definitely. And you make a good point on maybe it's a little too early to talk about being a seller at the trade deadline because those two starters that are going to be out for the rest of the year, they're younger guys. And you've also got Ronel Blanco, who was pulled in the middle of a no hitter a couple of days ago as a core of pitchers that
I
they've been
didn't know
using.
that I didn't know that Kevin Cash was the pitching coach for the Astros.
Uh, just uh, I and that's something I'll ask you about here too in a second. But the the core of those three pitchers, uh, Valdez, Ronel Blanco, and uh, name escapes me at the moment. Uh, that's a good core for starters. But right now, as for this season, we're having to rely so much on our bullpen that it is taxing them, and they haven't been real great to begin with. So that's why I start asking questions about the future of the organization, because with our number one starter being the age that he is, and the age of Altuve, Bregman, uh, their best hitters right now uh, have been Tucker and Jordan Alvarez. Well, if Alvarez is taking nights off because he's either tired or has a nagging injury, that's cause for concern. Maybe a little bit prematurely, but it's still there. So
Mhm.
there's that. But let me ask you about that no hitter that wasn't a couple days ago, David. Um, this is a this uh, this is a pitcher, Ronel Blanco, that threw a no hitter earlier this season and got pulled in the seventh after the seventh inning of another no hitter. Are the is management really overthinking this? Uh, a situation like this because that no hitter was broken up in the very next inning when Presley came in relief.
Yeah, I mean, I know we had a discussion before about Paul Skeens who got pulled. I believe he was in the midst of a no hitter, if I recall correctly, and
Mm-hmm.
we had a big debate about that. But I argue that I did not blame uh, Derek Shelton for that decision, partially because Paul Skeens is a rookie, and I think you have to be more careful with rookie arms. Now Blanco is not a rookie, right? He's a veteran.
He's a little bit older, but still young.
Okay, okay. So I'll just talk it off. Add that he's not a first year guy. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
Um, listen, man. When I hear about that, the only thing I can come up with is that you better have a damn good reason. Like you better have a damn good eye for for when a pitcher's arm is going to be strained, if a pitcher's arm has the chance to be strained, if there is something you're seeing that we're not. I feel like I'm kind of fumbling my words around a little bit, but the point I'm trying to make here is that you better have a damn good reason for why you did it, because pulling him, pulling a guy who is throwing a no hitter in the seventh inning, just it's so mind boggling to me. But I just have a hard time. Like, when something that mind boggling happens, I want to think that the manager has a good reason to do it, because nobody does something that egregious unless they have a good reason to do it.
absolutely, absolutely. And you bring up Paul Skeens, who was brought up at the speed of light, at
Yeah,
the
he
speed
was.
of one of his splinkers, as he calls it.
Yeah.
Because that's a guy that just last year at this time he was pitching in Omaha in the College World Series. And I got to tell you, David, this has been one of the most nail biting College World Series that I've seen. Having the first three games go to walk offs, that is a tremendous thing. And is there, and I know you have your Gators in it, and I know you've been keeping up uh, pitch by pitch with it with your Florida Gators. Uh, what has stood out to you in this College World Series that you hadn't seen previously?
Just from my team, all the teams.
We'll start with your team.
Well,
We'll start.
I
We'll
think
start with.
well,
We'll start with
you know,
Florida.
okay. Well, I think certainly after the season we had, absolutely nobody saw us going to Omaha after the season that we had. I mean, just the fact that we're even still alive, like the fact that we won just one game in Omaha with the season that we had is gravy. And I don't think any Florida fan saw Brandon Neely being as dominant as he is right now. You know, not that he never had the potential or or the capability. I mean, he's been our he was our closer last year, and he was an excellent closer for us last year. So not that we didn't think he could have that he didn't have the potential, but my gosh, the way that he's just been absolutely dominating as a closer against batters has just been so magnificent to see. Whereas if emphasis on if Florida does win the College World Series, you have to give the most outstanding player to Brandon Neely. Now, has a relief pitcher ever won most outstanding player? I'm not sure. I mean, I would venture to guess that probably not. I know starting pitchers have won most outstanding players before, but I would venture to guess that if Brandon Neely wins MOP, he would be the first relief pitcher to win the award. Now as far as the field in general, I mean, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, Ed. I mean, 3 straight walk-off wins is incredible, and it's just gotten to a point where, hey, if you're the home team, you're guaranteed a win, except for NC State. Sorry, NC State, go Gators. But yeah, something else too, Ed. I know there's obviously the dreaded number one curse, especially when it comes to College World Series. Only one number one seeded team has ever won the College World Series, and that was Miami, I think, back in 1999. We know that Tennessee is the number one seeded team, and there is definitely a part of me that yes, even though Tennessee is the best team in college baseball right now, there is still a part of me that is thinking, well, they got the number one seed, the curse will get to them. But I tell you what, there is something different about this about this Tennessee team, man. But they have their hands full. I believe they're playing FSU again since FSU won.
Yep.
FSU, yeah, they won against North Carolina today, and they definitely have Tennessee definitely has their hands full, and you bet your ass that the Noles are angry about that check swing. Which, in my opinion, I think the Tennessee player did. I think he did swing, but I think that was just a matter of the ump sucking at their job, like they have all season. So all incoherent rambling aside, Ed, yes, this has been an amazing College World Series. And last point that I will add is that this really truly does feel like a field where anybody can win it. Whereas I feel like last year there was really only 3 teams that had a chance of winning it all, and that was LSU, who obviously did win it all, Florida, and Wake Forest. Those were the only 3 teams last year that I thought had a prayer of a chance at winning Omaha. But this year, the field is a lot more wide open, and now I'm done.
And it's a lot more wide open with the SEC teams
Mm-hmm.
because the ACC, the 4 ACC teams, can't notch a win against the SEC teams. They are over so far in this College World Series. The only reason why Florida State has made it this far is the fact that they've played only ACC teams, getting uh, their up to their matchup with Tennessee tomorrow on Wednesday. So I'm looking to see if there could be some hang on in Florida State for the pride of ACC, but going against Tennessee, to your point, David, Tennessee just feels different. They feel like they can do more than just bash your head in and win a game, which is what a couple of years ago, when they were the greatest college baseball team ever assembled, that never made it to Omaha, that this is a different team. And this is a team that scares me far more than that team did. That team was, yes, very powerful. They were fast. They pitched well and had some good arms, but they kind of had that cockiness of Globo Gym. We're better than you, and we know
Yeah.
it. And this is this is a different team than that. On the other side of the bracket, though, you've got Texas A&M. They have just been waiting teams out. They have been so patient at the plate. They have been running when it's necessary. They have been pitching well. They took a no hitter into the seventh inning on Monday night and just controlled that game against sorry, you're uh, against Florida
You're not
last night.
wrong. You're not
No,
wrong.
I completely controlled that. So they they're dangerous in their patience. It's it's never the guy that is so overly animated that you're as worried about. It's a guy that just stands there and goes, "Yep." That you're because you just don't know when it's going to happen.
Mhm.
They are going to come out swinging. You just don't know when it's going to happen, and I feel like that's Texas A&M at this point in the second half of this bracket.
Well, I think you make a great point about patience, Ed. I mean, and I think that's well backed up by the fact that Texas A&M, I think, leads college baseball in walks. And
Mhm.
I don't know if a lot of people even think or realize this, but it takes a lot of skill to have that many walks, because ultimately what it comes down to is having a good eye. That one of the things that kind of drives me up the wall, that I don't understand why batters do it, but so many times I do not understand why batters swing at the first pitch. Like, I don't understand your obsession with being that aggressive early on. Now, if you get a hit or a home run on the first pitch, you know what? Kudos to you. Okay. But I think you're better off just, kind of testing out. Don't swing at the first pitch, and just to see if you get a walk. And if you do, great. If you don't, but I don't know. Like, what do you think, Ed? Like, do you think that it's foolish for batters to swing at the first pitch?
In college baseball, a little bit. You've got to keep a pitcher honest, though. You can't just to be taking unless that pitcher has shown you that they cannot find the strike zone.
Mm-hmm.
But in college baseball, you see far more pitchers that have a tough time challenging the strike zone than
Yeah.
you do that try and nibble, but they nibble so far out and can't control it to the point where they give up a lot of walks. And that's where Schlossnagel's philosophy is, as the coach for the Aggies, is let the let that pitcher beat himself and just get to that third and fourth and fifth pitcher because they can't keep you off the base pass. And when you get to the fifth pitcher, they're they're ripe for the picking. They're not going to have the best stuff that started the game, so that's why you're going to see A&M really tack on runs in that sixth, seventh, eighth inning time frame in any game that you see them play. And it's a sound strategy that has served Schlossnagle well from TCU, whom he brought to the College World Series, now to A&M, who he's brought to the College World Series. And it's going to be an exciting time going through the rest of this week, and as just trying to get to the weekend series for all the marbles.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we talked about the present of baseball. We've talked about the future of baseball. Sadly, we have to make mention of the past of baseball this evening, as it was found out today on Tuesday that the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays, passed away at 93 years old today. He was a just an icon. If you took the Hall of Fame down to 10 players, he would still be in the Hall of Fame. He is that that much of a revered figure in the game of baseball, and we hope that he rests in peace. And we hope the best and for his family. He had a long, happy, healthy life, and how he will be missed by all sports fans, not just baseball, not just regular sports fans. This is going to be a story that uh, anybody and everybody knows the name Willie Mays. Kids grow up making Willie Mays style catches. They We've all seen the clip of his most famous catch in the World Series, the over the shoulder, straight back in the center field. And that is just an iconic moment in time that baseball holds on to when you start talking about the reverence of the players that came before you. And uh, Willie Mays just embodied everything that was good about baseball, and really came out from uh, an era in which he had to make it out of the Negro Leagues into the MLB, and did so in a way that was respectful. It was courage. It was just a, as a damn good ball player, and he will be missed. All the stories that he has, it they go along with they go away with him, and I just I just uh, I don't know what to say beyond that, but rest in peace. Uh, but that's all the time that we have for today. Please hit that like and subscribe. Uh, like I said, Matthew's enjoying his family, uh, and we congratulate him on that. Uh, David, I want to say thank you for joining me this evening, and we are rounding third and headed for home.